Good morning, everyone. Hello, how are you? Today, I want to talk about applying for jobs through some out-of-the-box ways. So most of us, when we applying for a job, we're following the usual channels of responding to ads on job search engines like LinkedIn, Seek, Indeed, or Monster.com. And so what we do is we spruce up the resume, we make sure the LinkedIn's looking spiffy, and we get a cover letter together and start setting up job alerts or going to those search engines and start responding to those. And Glassdoor recently did a survey that stated or found that there are about 200 to 300 applications coming in for one role. So the market is super tight. And so I'm not saying to discount these usual channels of applying for jobs, but what I am saying is that you've got to start adding some other tools to your kit, because we have application tracking systems that is a gateway or gatekeeper. When you have 200, 300 applications coming in for a role, that means only a small percentage are going to get offered an interview. And out of that small percentage that's offered the interview, you're only going to have, one person actually land the role. So the competition is really tight. And so one of the things I want to talk about ways that you can increase your chances of landing the right role with the right company. So I call these some of my out-of-the-box strategies, because a lot of people don't do it. And even when I coach clients and I take them through the process, many of them are still quite stubborn and still follow the old channels and don't actually introduce some of these other tactics in their job application process. And what it often means is that even if they have a great resume, great LinkedIn, strong cover letter, they're still taking ages to land the role that they want. So a couple of things to know is that companies are now super interested in hiring via referral. Why? Because it's quite frankly an expensive mistake that they make if they hire someone and it's not the right fit for the company. So say, for example, if you hire for a 6-figure income role, that could potentially end up being a $30,000 mistake, because that's the kind of fees they're looking at paying, if they hire someone and then have to rehire and go through the same process. So it becomes a very expensive mistake for a lot of companies, right? If they don't end up hiring the right person. So it's why in my Fast Career Success program, I have a heavy focus in that program on building relationships and networking. And what I try and help my clients understand is that it's a long game, and it's something they should start almost immediately. Even before we complete their documents, I start teaching my clients how to start building the networks and building those relationships, because it's one of your best shots at having someone advocate for you at a company, right? If you build relationships with people over time, that is your best shot of having that particular person advocate for you at their company, perhaps to the HR manager, or whoever is hiring for a particular project. And if it's done right and consistently, then the chances are higher of you landing a role through advocacy, through someone speaking on your behalf. Companies prefer to hire people who have been referred than they do people who come from the cold market. They like people to be vouched for, because, as I said, it becomes a very expensive mistake if they end up hiring someone who's not the right cultural fit or doesn't have the right skills or the right leadership skills. So I advise people to make a list of the top 20 to 50 companies that they would like to work for, right? Make your list and start following the leaders of those companies on social media, particularly on LinkedIn. Follow them and start commenting and engaging with them through their posts or through their company posts. So if you want to work for like Microsoft or AWS, Google, any of the big 4 banks in Australia, and they've got a social media presence, which most companies have in one way, shape, or another. They have a social media presence. Make sure that you're following them there and that you are engaging with their posts, also sharing their posts, because that's how you become visible to someone or to people who are actively also engaged as company representatives on that social media platform. Then when it's time, reach out and make a connection with them on LinkedIn. By that time, the person is likely to know your name because they've seen you be a regular contributor on their posts or someone who's engaged on their posts. So that's one way you start becoming visible to the person. So when you reach out to make a connection with them on LinkedIn, they have an idea of who you are. Another step I encourage people to do is to start illustrating your value. So, the achievements need to be big on your resume. Gone are the days of, the boring tasks and responsibilities on resumes. Nobody's interested in that. They want a snapshot of that, and they particularly want to see your achievements, where you've improved things, how you've improved things, how you've made things better at companies, how you deliver projects, if you met the timeline, if you've delivered within budget. All of those things count. And one of the great ways to quantify an achievement is to back it up with some kind of metric, some kind of numbers. Then the other step I encourage people to do is to start creating what they call a value proposition statement, or a value elevator pitch, right? So I'm going to give you an example of a great elevator pitch or a great value proposition, and it's Uber's proposition, right? So Uber states, one tap and a car comes directly to you. Your driver knows exactly where to go. Payment is completely cashless. That's Uber's value proposition, and they do it in 23 words. So a great value proposition, telling someone what you can offer them, if it's done in less than 50 words and it conveys something strong of how you help them, that's the way you start going. And why you want to create a value proposition statement is because when you start meeting people and they start asking you what you do, you want to be able to state that value proposition, sharp and succinct. So mine, for example, is I help stuck, frustrated corporate professionals tap hidden job markets, ace interviews, land great jobs, and increase incomes through my online Fast Career Success program and my Happy Career Hub membership. 31 words, and I've stated, what I do and how I do it. And that's what's called a value proposition. The other thing you could do, and here's where you're really going, outside of the box, right? You're really starting to take yourself on and starting to put yourself out there to become someone that people will notice. And so I encourage people to study the companies that they want to work for, right? Study the, 5 to 10 companies. You might have your list of 50, but maybe study the top 5 to 10. See where you can see gaps in some of what they do, and create a presentation deck where you can solve one or two of their problems, especially their problems around customer experience, right? Because all companies, it doesn't matter which company you are, whether you're a banking company, whether you're a Google or a Microsoft or an AWS, whatever company you are, your business is reliant ultimately on your customer experience. If your customers are not having a great time, your brand and reputation gets tarnished very quickly. And just as easily as companies can rise through customer advocacy, they can also fall if they're not servicing their customers. So I always encourage people to go and have a look and see where customer experiences could be improved, for example, for particular companies, and develop something, develop a presentation desk, develop a solution, a small little solution, even if you're only addressing a small section of the company's problems. And if you land an interview, turn up with that presentation deck and say, I noticed, for example, that you were having X, Y, and Z problem within your customer experience. And I've had to think about a couple of solutions that you might be interested in. That is so out of the box, so not what people expect, so going above and beyond that you are going to get attention, and chances are you're going to land the role. If you don't yet have an interview, as you build those relationships with those people that you're commenting and engaging on their posts, and you're now connected with them on LinkedIn, this is where you start feeding little thoughts to them, via the direct messenger in LinkedIn, or wherever you contacting them. Start dropping little solutions to their problems. Oh, excuse me. Drop little solutions to their problems, and you'll find yourself being paid attention to. I mean, I know it's way out of the box, and it's so out of so many people's comfort zones. But here's the thing, I have seen it succeed so many times. I myself have used it, tried to offer solutions, and that's how you get noticed. That's how people start to know you and want to work with you, because you're offering value and you're offering solutions. So those are some of my tips, understanding that companies prefer hiring via a referral system because it can be very expensive and costly if they make a mistake in their hiring. Make your list of your top 20 to 50 companies that you want to work for, and start following the leaders on social media and commenting and engaging with those companies. Start illustrating your values, especially in your resume, through your achievements. Make sure your resume is very focused on your achievements. And then start constructing a value proposition, right? So a short, sharp value proposition. As I said, less than 50 words is great. And then start looking at ways that you can offer solutions to companies. And if it means making a presentation deck that you can share at an interview, or that you can start sharing part of, don't share the full presentation desk. You don't want someone pinching your idea. So share little snippets of a solution to a leader of a company, whether it's via social media or a direct message. You'll get noticed. They are out of the box ways, but they have worked, and they still work. And remember, it is a long game. Building relationships, building mutually beneficial relationships where people know, like, and trust you is a long game. But done consistently, it starts to compound. And before you know it, you end up with a lot more job offers than you thought possible. I've definitely seen that happen. And I've seen it happen particularly when people follow these out-of-the-box tips, in addition to the usual channel applications that they do around job searching and job applications. So that's my little tips for the day. I hope it's useful. I hope it helps you. And good luck to everyone who is currently searching. And if you'd like me to answer any other questions, or you have any topics of discussion that you'd like me to address, I'm happy to do so. I try to go live once a week, and I'll welcome any kind of topics or any kind of questions that people are interested in hearing about or feel that I can help them with. Please do feel free to put a comment, or to even direct message me via LinkedIn with your questions or some topics that you might want to cover. Have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.